So very welcome to this seminar. It is about a recent amendment of the EU directive, which opens some new possibilities for slaughter at the farm of origin. And it is also about the gunshot method as a way to minimize stress during slaughter. My name is Maria Mischa, and the host of this seminar is MatLust. MatLust is a regional development fund project by EU, and we support small and middle-sized food companies in the Stockholm area to grow sustainably. MatLust mainly works with in this local region, but we also engage in some transnational networking and exchange of best practice. And with today's seminar, we want to contribute to the sharing of new knowledge on this topic at hand. Hans von Essen from Veras International and I will together guide you through the seminar, and you are very welcome to post your questions either in the chat or by the raise hand function at the end of the seminar. And we ask you to please keep your mics muted during the presentations, and please also be aware that we are recording this seminar. So we have 4 great speakers today. Let me just briefly show you the program. So there we are. And first is Katrin Schiffer from Eldrimner, which is Sweden's resource center for artisan food. And Katrin will give us an introduction to this topic. And so please, Katrin, I will stop share and you can share your presentation.
Yes, thank you for your kind invitation to this seminar, Maria and Hans. My name is also Katrin Schiffer. I am agronomist and I come originally from Germany, but 10 years ago we moved to northern Sweden. I was asked to talk about the gunshot method today. This is my favorite topic. I'm engaged in this from different perspectives, initially as a personal matter, but today even at my work, in my work at Eldrimner. Moreover, on-farm slaughter of cattle via gunshot method became the topic of my PhD thesis at Kassel University in Germany 10 years ago, with Bo Algars from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences as a second supervisor and fantastic help. Sometimes I'm working as a researcher still today, and last week we finally published the results of quite a similar research project here in Sweden. We had this project at Bona, close to Stockholm, and it's really fine that the owner of this special farm joins this MatLust seminar as well. Hey, Adam. Some words about Eldrimner. Eldrimner is, as Maria said, the resource center for artisan food here in Sweden and part of the county administrative board of Jämtland. It looks like this today. It's wintertime, 2 months ahead. Eldrimner's main areas are making artisan food known and spreading knowledge in artisan fruit production in 5 different sections like dairy and bakery. Myself, I'm working in the section for small-scale slaughter and artisan meat processing. Especially in this section, we work with many other tasks in addition to education and courses. We try to facilitate for enterprises. For example, by means of writing guidelines and by dialogue with the national authorities. That means we are, on the one hand, in contact with butchers and artisan food producers, who are, by the way, often farmers, and on the other hand, with authorities such as Livsmedelsverket, the Swedish Food Safety Authority. I'm very pleased that Mona-Lisa Dahlbom Wiedel of the Livsmedelsverket joined the seminar too. And even Erika Olsson, who is engaged in both Eldrimner and the Organic Farmers Association, Ekologiska Lantbrukarna. Hey. My presentation will be structured like this. At first, I will try to put the Gunshot method in a context and explain what I mean by the Gunshot method. We will look at legislation, but not in a detailed way, because I guess that Mona-Lisa is going to inform on this later. Then I will highlight a few aspects from my research, such as stun quality, stress, meat quality, and slaughter hygiene when using the Gunshot method. In the end, we will look at some practical recommendations and some conclusions. Background. Stress on the day of slaughter and its impact on animal welfare and meat quality have been reported for decades. At the same time, the public concern for animal welfare and slaughter-related issues has constantly been growing. Extensive husbandry of cattle on large semi-natural pasture land is usually perceived as a way of husbandry which is highly appropriate to the species. Many ecosystem benefits are connected to this way of husbandry as well. Unfortunately, slaughter-related stress especially concerns extensively kept cattle, which has minor habituation to spatial tightness, such as on transport or at the slaughter facility, and neither to human-animal contacts. These animals are even known for responding more aggressively to the handling procedures on the day of slaughter. I've heard about some Swedish slaughterhouses which do not accept any highland cattle, for example, for slaughter any longer. A typical stress factor can be the procedure of stunning. As many of you know, each animal is to be stunned in order to gain unconsciousness before the debleeding is performed, which leads to the animal's death. In cattle, the most common stunning device is a captive ball stunner that needs to be pressed at the animal's forehead when firing. The animal needs to be fixated for the stunning, often in a tight stunning box like on the picture, and often with some kind of head restrainer as well. Free-range cattle is known for panicking in the chute and in the stunning box, and stunning failures are reported to occur more frequently in aroused than in calm cattle. Well, and what about transport? A short distance to a local slaughterhouse is sometimes a bit misleadingly used as a positive animal welfare and sales argument. But a short distance to the slaughterhouse does not necessarily alleviate associated problems. Why? As especially initial and final factors, such as loading, contact to unknown animals and humans, unloading, the chute, and the stunning box can have a major impact on animal welfare. I do, of course, not mean that long transports are fine, but I would like to draw attention to the fact that even a short transport may cause stress in animals if they are not used to it. In Germany, about 20 years ago, many farmers, consumers, and animal rights organizations, as well as a number of small-scale slaughterhouses, had become unsatisfied by the limitations on using a respectful method for ending the lives of carefully bred cattle. An ethically correct way for slaughter has been demanded. Artisan meat producers have also asked for better solutions. There is a substantial financial loss for the small-scale farmers when they want to make products from their farm's meat, but receiving a low-quality DFD, dark firm dry meat, back from the slaughterhouse. DFD meat is caused by a stress-induced depletion of muscle glycogen storages before slaughter. This has a negative impact on various quality parameters and the shelf life of the meat, mostly due to an unfavorably high final pH value of approximately 6. A hidden pH value in the meat reduces the possibilities for the artisan meat producer to make certain products, such as dried meat products. Well, a possible solution for almost stress-free slaughtering of cattle is the Gunshot method. What do I mean when I talk about the Gunshot method? Definitely nothing about Wild West. Most important is that the moment of stunning is very well planned, but that it happens out of the blue for the animal by a gunshot from a distance, and that dead, as opposed to live animals, are transported to the slaughterhouse. Primary steps of the slaughter process, that means stunning and bleeding, do not longer happen at the slaughterhouse, but are carried out in a shooting paddock at the farm the animals origin from. The surroundings are safe for both cattle and humans, and the animals remain calm in their familiar group. A precise shot hits the animal standing in the most favorable shooting position in the forehead, with the ammunition staying inside the cranium. After bleeding, the animals will be transported to the slaughterhouse. There continues the slaughter process as usual. Antemortem control, that means live inspection, is carried out at the farm. Post-mortem control of the meat and the organs is performed as usual at the slaughterhouse. What about legislation? Right now, we see a very exciting development. Before, at this point, I used to mention that the regulation EC 853 does not allow on-farm slaughter before transport to the slaughterhouse because only live animals may be brought into the slaughter premises. Moreover, I was used to mention that Germany, by deviating from this regulation, passed an amendment in its national hygiene legislation in 2011 that did permit on-farm stunning and bleeding nevertheless. I'm very happy that there's no need to tell that any longer. In autumn, the European Commission published a delegated regulation, amending Annex 3 to Regulation EC 853, which does permit slaughter at the holding of provenance of a limited number of domestic animals, 3 cattle, 3 horses, 6 pigs max. Dead animals are allowed to be brought in a slaughterhouse. That was not possible before. Actually, this is a real chance for a small-scale slaughter revolution. Yet, I need to highlight that the present change of EU legislation does not automatically include the gunshot method. But the biggest step is done, the door is open, even if some of the existing national legislation now needs to be modified in some member states, such as Sweden. However, when Germany passed the amendment in 2011 and allowed on-farm slaughter of free-range cattle, this change did not lead to a satisfying implementation of the gunshot method in practice. Therefore, one of the aims of my research project at Kassel University in Germany, which was mostly paid by the government, was to find an appropriate and safe setting that works on farm. And I will come back to some practical recommendations later. Further aims were to investigate stun quality by applicating a gunshot to cattle, and finally to look at effects of the gunshot method on meat quality traits and blood characteristics that may indicate stress before slaughter. The recent project at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences had a very similar design to the German project, but instead of meat quality, we investigated slaughter hygiene. Stun quality. The first study of the German project aimed at gaining rather general information. Isolated heads of post-mortem cattle were shot in different ways and evaluated by means of the skull dissections. Live cattle were shot in the second investigation, and the stun quality was assessed in detail. In order to evaluate the level of stun quality, a stun quality protocol was compiled. Musculoskeletal, optical, and respiratory signs were monitored both directly after the shot and retrospectively by video evaluation. Head dissections helped to understand the results of the stun quality protocols. Brain hemorrhages, especially around the brainstem, to the right on this slide, turned out to be more crucial for a good stun than brain tissue damage only. Stun quality became best when a small bore caliber was applied for shooting, and not one of several large bore calibers we tried as well. The pictures show the brain after a shot with a 22 Magnum small bore caliber. The projectile remains at the base of the cranial cavity instead of passing straight through the skull. Even when this caliber has a 10 times lower energy at the muscle, the efficacy of the shot increases because of optimized energy transfer, as the kinesthetic energy stays inside the cranium and the so-called temporary cavity in terms of wound ballistics. This optimizes relevant brain hemorrhages at the brainstem and leads subsequently to decreased musculoskeletal reactions after the shot. This is even preferable in terms of working safety. We have less kicking to cope with when hissing up the animal for de-bleeding. At the same time, safety for the other animals of the group and for the human beings around increases when the projectile stays inside the head. Premortal stress. Lactate in the sticking blood can be used to indicate stress before slaughter. You can see the resides in the first table. We found high levels of lactate, that means a high stress level, in cattle slaughtered at the slaughterhouse, abattoir, but not in cattle slaughtered on farm by the gunshot method. Table 2, a closer look on the lactate levels across both studies revealed differences between the lactate level of the first animal shot and of further animals of the same group shot on the same day. I was not at all surprised that in cattle slaughtered at the slaughterhouse, the lactate level of further animals shot was significantly higher compared to the first animals shot on the day. Stress is contagious. Other researchers refer to the stress pheromone-related smell of fear substances, which may alert follow-up cattle and cause severe stress at the slaughterhouse. However, in cattle slaughtered on farm via the gunshot method, the lactate level of the follow-up animals was even slightly lower compared to the first animals shot. This result was both very interesting and even important in order to meet consumer concerns in Germany, which addressed herd members' reactions on the gunshot method. Many consumers have a bit difficulties in to imagine that witnessing a herd member to be shot can be stress-free. But an animal shot from a distance and out of the blue in a calm on-farm situation simply has no opportunity to spread any smell of fear among its herd members before it dies. Meat quality. The aim was to compare various beef quality traits between cattle slaughtered on farm via the gunshot method and cattle slaughtered ordinarily at the slaughterhouse. All animals originated from the same flock, or the same herd. The relationship between stress responsiveness and meat quality is complex and needs much more future research, especially for extensively raised cattle. However, some previous results were confirmed by this work. For example, that lowered stress at the time of slaughter may result in normal pH values, in higher tenderness of the meat, and a higher water holding capacity of the meat. Slaughter hygiene. Outdoor stunning and bleeding, as well as the transport and handover of dead domestic animals to a slaughterhouse, have sometimes been claimed to increase the risk of contamination and to compromise slaughter hygiene. This presumption was not confirmed by our recent project at Bona. The microbial contamination of the carcasses was low. We did not detect any difficulties in maintaining a high level of slaughter hygiene, as the animals, the shooting paddock, and the slaughterhouse were clean, and all related steps of the slaughter process were performed hygienically. The time span between bleeding and handover to the slaughterhouse was about 30 minutes in our project. Concerning transport, we employed a simple solution, which is shown in the picture to the right. Following the bleeding, the body was placed on an open standard trailer, wrapped in a clean tarpaulin, the feet covered with protective plastic bags to prevent any contamination, and transported from the shooting paddock to the farm's slaughter premises. Yeah, we can try to look at a short film of the Swedish project. And at the same time, I will try to give some practical recommendations. Let me see. I hope you see the film.
Yes, we do.
Great. Okay. Det var lite synd. This does not work here right now. Don't know why. Try again.
Want me to do it instead?
I do a last try.
Mm-hmm.
See the film?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ja, men då. A familiar and calm group of cattle in a familiar surrounding. This is a basic requirement. The whole group is ante-mortem live inspected in order to enable free choice for the shooter. Appropriate weapon and ammunition, with the projectile remaining within the cranial cavity instead of passing straight through. Shooting from above instead of from the ground, best in 90 degrees angle. Shooting in a clean and enclosed area, employing a shooting paddock and a backstop. Extra gate for backing off remaining animals after the shot. Proof of competence for the shooter in precision targeting, as being a normally accredited hunter or butcher does not automatically qualify for proper gunshot at cattle. Minimized number of people around. It's much people here because it's in a research project, but it's best with a minimized number of people around and no sources of interference visible for the cattle in order to avoid unexpected head movements. Strict control of the stand quality and reserve weapons as a backup ready at hand. You see no movements of the legs. It's because of the brain hemorrhages at the brainstem.
Yes, Katrin, maybe you can tell us why you wanted to show this film.
Because it's always fine to see what the speaker is talking about, and it's not so easy to find a place where you can watch this in real life. And I will go back to my presentation if it works. Don't know.
Yes, and maybe I pitch in also that I know that the quality showing film in Zoom is not so great, so it's difficult to see. But I think what we took away from the film was mainly that the other animals remain really calm around the one that is shot.
Exactly. As I said, it's a basic requirement that the animals are very calm, and they are not shocked of the shot, but they are very calm. So, conclusions. A precise frontal gunshot at cattle reliably causes hemorrhagic bleedings sufficient for a deep stun or instantaneous death. Blood lactate levels suggest that on-farm slaughter by the gunshot method can be considered as almost stress-free, not only for the animal shot, but also for herd members witnessing the shot and the breakdown. The meat quality investigation revealed a positive effect of the gunshot method on several traits. DFD meat can be excluded as a matter of principle. A high level of slaughter hygiene is possible to maintain, even in case of very simple transport facilities to be used. Today, EU legislation finally provides a framework for on-farm slaughter, even by means of the gunshot method. A situation many farmers, artisan food producers, small-scale slaughterhouses, and consumers have been longing for since many, many years. Now, it is up to the national authorities to take the opportunity of a meaningful implementation, to change existing national rules if necessary, and fully contribute to improve animal welfare at slaughter. Here you find some further information. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Katrin. And I'm sure there are questions, but we will save them for a little bit later. So we will now,
yes,
thank you, give the floor to Mona-Lisa Dahlbom Wiedel from Livsmedelsverket, the Swedish Food Authority. And I will share your presentation. Tell our English-speaking audience that Mona-Lisa will speak in Swedish. But her presentation contains a lot of information in English, and I will try to add if she tells other things.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mona-Lisa Dahlbom Wiedel, and I work as a veterinary inspector at the National Food Agency. I will give my presentation in Swedish. It's a short and concise presentation of the opportunity provided by the new legislation. But the pictures shown are in English, so it will be easier to follow, I think. The National Food Agency performs all public inspection and is the competent authority and has the official veterinarians. So that was in English, and now I begin in Swedish, as you can hear. Slakt på jordbruksanläggning, det är alltså en ny möjlighet. Tidigare har slakt kunnat ske i ett godkänt slakteri, på ett mobilt slakteri och i samband med nödslakt av djur då som har akut råkat ut för en olyckshändelse, och det är ganska få. Det här är alltså en ny möjlighet på jordbruksanläggningen i eller vid en mobil enhet då, som ska vara en del av ett godkänt slakteri. När vi pratar om husbehovsslakt eller hemslakt så är det något helt annat. Och vi kan ta nästa bild. Vad är det då som är nytt? Och det som är nytt är platsen där slakten kan utföras. Det är det som är nytt i det här. Övriga regler som gäller till exempel djurskydd vid slakt, hantering av avfall, planering, avgifter och så. Det är precis som tidigare. Sen är det en rad förutsättningar som måste vara uppfyllda för att det här ska vara möjligt. Men som Katrin sa, det är en helt ny möjlighet. All slakt regleras av EU-föreskrifter. i stort. Vi har en del nationella föreskrifter också, men det allra mesta, så som det här, regleras av EU-föreskrifter. Flera medlemsstater, inklusive Sverige, har efterfrågat den här möjligheten av olika skäl tidigare eller långt tidigare. Men nu då från och med september 2021 så gäller det här. Men det ska sägas, förordningen är restriktiv. Den innehåller en del begränsningar, men också en hel del möjlighet. Och det här gäller formellt. Vi behöver som myndighet tid att anpassa oss, och det vill vi göra till en viss del då tillsammans med branschen och intressenter. Det här är väldigt, väldigt kort. Ni kan ju läsa förordningen på andra ställen, men väldigt kort. Den ger alltså möjlighet att slakta på jordbruksanläggningen djuren kommer ifrån, men det är begränsningar i antalet. 3 tar man nöt, eller 6 grisar eller 3 hästar vid samma möjlighet eller samma tillfälle. Och djuren ska inte kunna transporteras till levande slakteriet. Det är grundförutsättningarna. En officiell veterinär måste bli informerad senast 3 dagar, kan vara längre också. Och en officiell veterinär ska utföra besiktningen före slakt, precis som vid vanlig slakt. Men också övervaka bedövningen, avblodningen och eventuellt om man tar ur tarmar och på anläggningen eller på jordbruksanläggningen. Det måste finnas en mobil enhet. Det här är nytt. Men den mobila enheten ska då möjliggöra en hygienisk hantering. Den mobila enheten måste vara en del av ett slakteri som är godkänt av oss. Bedövningen och avblodning får ske utanför den mobila enheten under vissa förutsättningar. Därefter, precis som Katrin har beskrivit, en direkt transport till ett slakteri och där då omedelbart övrig slakthantering ska genomföras. Ja, var är vi nu då? För precis som vi har sagt, förordningen är publicerad och gäller. Vi är en intern grupp på Livsmedelsverket som arbetar med att titta på vissa frågor och så som vi behöver reda ut. Och vi har redan identifierat en del frågor som vi ser att det här behöver vi titta på. Men vi planerar också ett samarbete med intressenter och den 15 respektive den 18 mars kommer att ske digitala workshop där vi tillsammans ska försöka titta på vilka förutsättningar förordningen ger och titta på också vilka frågor som man tycker är viktigt att man tar med sig och skapa en förståelse både för intressenternas förväntningar men även för myndigheten, vilka krav som ställs. Ja, jag tror att det var snabbversionen av den här förordningen.
Thank you so much, Mona-Lisa.
Förlåt?
Thank you a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
I saw there are questions for you, but we will do, as I said before, and save them for after we have heard from Adam and Erika. So now I leave the floor to Adam Giertta from Bona Gård, a farm, and we will listen to the farmer's perspective. So please, Adam, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me as well. I'll keep it quite brief so we have some more time for questions, but the shot, which is where I was my part in this trial, is not really a difficult shot for an experienced shooter, but the problem is stress. It is a stressful situation for the shooter, and especially if things go wrong with the shot, then it's a high stress situation. And I find that's one of the lessons learned, that it's quite important to minimize stress in this situation. So the less people involved, the better. The simpler you can keep it, the better. But it's all a matter of transitioning stress from the animals to the humans. the animals were not stressed at all, even in situations when the shot went wrong, which it did on 2 occasions. But it was quite astounding to see how stress-free it was in all these situations, even with the second animals. That's the biggest surprise to me. And that's the idea, to transition the stress away from the animals, not transporting them live, of course. Other things is the practical issues, distance to abattoirs, means of transport. Here again, I think it's quite important to keep everything as simple as possible. The way we did it in this trial was very, very simple, with just putting it behind a car. But it worked. And I see very little need to make special arrangements for transport and all that, if we can keep it simple. And it's interesting, quite important, who does what. And from a farmer's perspective, we always want to save money wherever we can. That's sort of the nature of the business. But I think it is quite important that the farmer is allowed to take the shot, allowed or the stunning shot, and allowed to bleed the cow out, and allowed to transport it to the abattoir, to keep as much as possible on the farmer's side, because it will be probably quicker and obviously save quite a lot of money. And that's sort of the main lesson: keep everything as simple as possible and as little people involved as possible. Otherwise, I cannot see why we shouldn't be able to do this safely for everybody involved, and especially keep the stress level down for the animals. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Then I will immediately turn to Erika Olsson from Ekologiska Lantbrukarna. She's the chairperson of the Association of Organic Farmers in Sweden, and also a farmer. Please, Erika.
Thank you so much. And I'll just turn on my video. Yes, Erika Olsson from a small farm called Onsberga, and also Ekologiska Lantbrukarna. And I'll just give you a short presentation on why this is such an important possibility for us. I have a few pictures. Ska se om jag kan presentera. So I just give you a short presentation on why this is so important for us, and that why we welcome this new possibility. Maybe one of the first reasons why is animal welfare. When you, like a farmer, follow your animals through their whole life, from the day that they are born on the farm, it's great to be able to give them a respectful end on the farm. And that's also a possibility to reach customers that have chosen not to eat meat today because they're not comfortable with the way slaughter work today. And the meat quality is also another good reason. Stress under transportation or closely to the slaughter can easily damage the quality. And when you, like I do, sell meat to restaurants or customers with very high demands, you soon find out they won't accept a meat that is with the best quality. And a day like this, you can also think about the importance of safety in the food supply. When you stand in front of global crisis or in a case of emergency, the importance of being able to translate your animals to meat that reach the customers is very, very important. And I think that some of the issues that we need to work together on right now is from the farmer side to identify groups of farmers that can work together and create forms of cooperation or new business model. We need to find the best practice. What do we do in distance time? How do we work together? And how do we split the cost? We also need to find a dialogue with slaughterhouses. This isn't a method that works for everyone. So we need to find a network of farmers that think that this really is a possibility or an opening. So I think that Ekologiska Lantbrukarna has a lot of work to do in a few months of time when this new possibility is working. I think I end there, and I'll be here. We can ask some question or discuss this question further on.
Thanks a lot. That's great. So then we do have some time left now for all your questions, and I've seen that there are many questions in the chat, and you're also very welcome to ask your questions directly to the panel. You can raise your hand. If you can use the reactions function, there is a raise hand you can click. Then it's easy to see that you want to ask a question. But Hans, you can also pick up questions from the chat.
Yes, I think I start. I see Gunilla Ståhle is raising her hand, but she has also one question or two questions in the chat. So I think I start with those two. The first one is, and they're both directed to Mona-Lisa. The first one is, why is the Board of Agriculture not involved in this question, in this issue? And the second one may be a misunderstanding. Animals may not be transported live to the slaughterhouse. Mona-Lisa, could you explain what that is, what that exactly means? So I start with those two short questions to Mona-Lisa.
Okej, jag svarar på svenska då. Jag förstod inte riktigt den första frågan, att varför vi inte är involverade. Vi är ju involverade.
Nej, Jordbruksverket. Alltså varför Jordbruksverket inte?
Ja, okej. Jordbruksverket, ja, det kan jag ju inte svara på, men Jordbruksverket kommer att medverka på våra dialogmöten, och vi har kontakt med Jordbruksverket i de här frågorna. Det kan jag svara på.
Yeah. So I translate this. The Agriculture Board will be involved in dialogue meetings further on in the process. So.
Okay. Mm.
I can comment as well here. I can try in English. Jordbruksverket is aware of that we need some changes in the L22 if we want to allow the gunshot method.
And about the second part of the question about that the animals may not be transferred live, I think that could possibly be my error in translating from Swedish into English very quickly. Okay. Mona-Lisa's presentation. In the Swedish original, Mona-Lisa wrote, djuren kan inte transporteras levande till slakteri.
So that is the condition when the animals cannot be transported live to slaughtery, then this is possible.
Yeah, so that was a translation error. I apologize for that.
I föreskrifterna, och det är den första punkten, så står det att djuren kan inte transporteras till slakteriet för att undvika all risk för den som hanterar djuren och för att förhindra eventuella skador på djuren under transporten. Det här är ju en av de frågorna som vi behöver titta på tillsammans. Vi har ju förstått, vilket vi tycker är rimligt, att det finns en förväntan att alla djur som man önskar slakta ska kunna slaktas på det här sättet. Riktigt så är det ju inte uttryckt och det har inte framgått i förarbetet, utan där har man haft fokus på sådana djur som är svåra att transportera.
Yeah, this is a discussion point for the future that is very important, because the producers wish that all animals should have the right to be slaughtered in an animal friendly way. But it is not exactly like that formulated in the regulation. So this is a question of interpretation where it needs to be discussed in detail.
Yes, to avoid any risk.
Please, Katrin.
Yeah, to avoid any risk for the handler and injuries to the animal. It's like this in the regulation, I guess. And this is very important from our perspective as well. That it is fine if we manage to get the gunshot method, but even milking cow, or from Eldrimner's perspective, it's our view, even a milking cow or from a fairboard has a right to die without stress on the farm, even if stunning maybe is with a captive bolt stunner.
Yeah, there was also a question here from Jenny. I think everyone in the panel could answer to it. What exact changes are needed in the Swedish legislation? And maybe Katrin should start.
As long as I know, it's about the shooting distance, it's about certain ammunition which is suitable, and it's about fixation of the animal, if we now talk about gunshot method. But to stun a pig or a cow with a captive bolt stunner does not need changes in the L22 in the Swedish regulation so far, so as I know, but Mona-Lisa is much better in this point.
Yes, Mona-Lisa, would you like to add something?
Nej, diskussionerna har ju framför allt gällt djurskyddsbestämmelserna. Det finns ju bestämmelser kring avståndet och det har Katrin tagit upp. Det finns också bestämmelser kring tiden från bedövning till avblodning. Det kan också vara en sån, något man behöver titta på. Men som sagt var, det är Jordbruksverkets ansvarsområde. Sen har vi att se till att det följs.
Yes. There was also a question I'd like to take up here in the chat about the requirements of education of the shooter. Is there a special exam for that? Is there something there?
Alltså nu behöver jag svara på svenska, förlåt. Det finns inga särskilda krav idag, men vi kommer, eller jag från forskningsperspektivet kan bara säga vi måste sätta upp regler för den som skjuter, för vi kan inte förutsätta att alla är lika duktiga som Adam som bara kan det, utan det krävs ju ändå obligatorisk kompetensbevis för den som hanterar slaktdjur, så det kommer bli kanske ett extra kapitel eller något tillägg, men jag kommer rekommendera att om det blir något tillägg i det vanliga obligatoriska kompetensbeviset, att det inte enbart är teoretiskt, utan det viktigaste här är något praktiskt prov.
So in short, those rules today don't exist, but they have to be made up, and the most important here is that it is mainly a practical competence to be able to be skilled at shooting.
Jag behöver bara tillägga, jag vet inte vad du riktigt menade, Katrin, men det krävs någon som ska hantera djur i samband med slakt, behöver ha ett kompetensbevis som utfärdas, inte av oss utan utav om det är Länsstyrelsen eller Jordbruksverket. Så att där är det i sådana fall ett komplement i det som behövs. Men det krävs kompetens för den som hanterar redan idag. Så.
Absolutely. In Germany, there are several extra courses and examinations, some which the shooter has to do.
So Lisa just said that there is a requirement of proof of competence during the slaughter.
Of course.
Yeah, we have two people who have raised their hands. Maybe we can let them in. Kajsa Resare Salin.
Well, so my second question was about you mentioned that it's required from the actual slaughterhouse to provide this mobile unit. And what does that mean in practice? And what are the kind of requirements that are then put on this transport?
Den här mobila enheten som ska användas är ju en helt ny företeelse. Och det står ju egentligen i förordningen, den nya förordningen, att den ska möjliggöra hygienisk hantering. Men det står också väldigt tydligt att den ska utgöra en del av ett godkänt slakteri. Så att exakt hur den ska vara utformad, det är ju sånt som vi behöver komma fram till gemensamt. Sen beror det lite grann på om själva bedövningen och avblodningen ska ske utanför den här. Då kanske inte kraven på en sån här enhet behöver vara så stora. Men ska bedövning och avblodningen ske inuti en sådan här, så kommer det att bli andra krav. Så att, men det här är helt nytt. Vi vet inte exakt hur den ska vara utformad.
In the research project, it was just the trailer and the tarpaulin and plastic bags around the feed. And we investigated slaughter hygiene, and it was better than at many slaughterhouses, indeed.
So just to go back to what Mona-Lisa just said in Swedish, there in the directive, it's a new requirement that a mobile unit is connected to the slaughter, and it has to be affiliated with the slaughterhouse. It has to belong to the slaughterhouse. But exactly how these rules will be played out is not yet in place. This is a process still going on.
Yes. Shall we let Helena Nordlund in then? We have a few minutes left.
Actually, my question was about that the animal could not be transported to the slaughterhouse, but then there are requirements that after shooting the animal, it will be transported. So it means anyway that there must be a slaughterhouse quite near, because you can't put a dead animal, you can't transport a dead animal for hours to a slaughterhouse. So it seems a little bit unlogical for me, this rule, that it is a requirement that it can't be transported. So that was my
alive, not transported, alive. That word was missing.
Yes, but
was we sorted that out, Helena. It was an interpretation.
No, but anyway, Mona-Lisa said that it's not any animal that you wish to slaughter in the farm that can be. It's only those that for some reason, for the people around it or for the animal itself, it can't be transported. But then anyway, for me, it's an unlogical thing, because then you have a requirement that after shooting the animal, it will be transported to a slaughterhouse, which means that the slaughterhouse must be quite near geographically, because you can't transport a dead animal for hours if you haven't taken, how say man, ta ur.
Det står att i föreskriften så står det att om det tar mer än 2 timmar för den här transporten så måste det finnas en kylkapacitet på transporten helt enkelt. Och det kan vi ju likna med nödslakt också. Det finns ju nödslaktstillfällen som också där transporten tar längre än 2 timmar.
Okej, så det blir nödslaktsregler i princip?
Nej, nödslaktsregler, jag säger bara vi kan jämföra. Det finns tillfällen när en transport tar längre tid och det gäller ju även när det gäller jagat, alltså vilt. Så att vi har ju mycket att titta på och jämföra med, men föreskriften är tydlig här.
So,
och där tänkte jag bara kort.
Interpretation, just to interpret to English. So Mona-Lisa just said that if the transport time required from the moment of slaughter to the slaughterhouse is more than 2 hours, then the mobile unit has to have a cold, be able to be done cold transport.
A quote comment here. I thought it's a very complex topic, so it's high risk for misunderstandings here. But actually, it's no contradiction in this question as from an animal welfare perspective. So it's just most important that no alive animals need to be transported, and yes, we need a slaughterhouse nearby, and the slaughter people I have talked with, they will not take animals in which have been transported longer than 1 hour actually. So in Germany it's a maximum time for one hour, even if the EU legislation now says 2 hours, but in practice it's much better if it's 1 hour. And my suggestion for Sweden is that even so-called wildhanteringsanläggningar should take such animals. That's our
so the suggestion is that also facilities handling wild game should be able to take in animals slaughtered this way.
They need to upgrade maybe.
Vilthanteringsanläggningar är inte slakterier, så det är också en fråga att anpassa dem så att de blir godkända som ett slakteri. Om det bara blir för den här hanteringen eller om det måste bli för övrig hantering, det vet vi inte. Men vi förstår och vi är medvetna om att den här möjligheten behöver vi titta på.
Och jag tänkte bara jättekort på svenska flika in att när regelverket väl sen är på plats har vi ett jättejobb att identifiera de som vill vara med. Vilka slakterier alternativt och vilthanteringsanläggningar kan tänka sig att kliva in i det här. Hur många lantbrukare ska vi jobba tillsammans? Hur delar vi på kostnaden? Hur ökar vi försäljning och så vidare? Så att nästa steg ser jag är verkligen affärsutveckling. För jag är övertygad om att vi har kunder som är beredda att betala lite mer för den här produkten, men inte hur mycket som helst. Så att jag kan tänka att när väl regelverket är på plats så har vi ett jätteutvecklingsarbete att hugga tag i.
Jag ska bara tillägga där när vi pratar om...
Interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That once the regulation is in place and this process is ongoing and will be ongoing for a while, but after that there is still a lot of work to be done to see how to actually carry this out, who will be involved and how costs will be distributed and what consumers are willing to pay, etc. etc. Please, Mona-Lisa.
Jag behövde bara tillägga när vi pratar om att vilthanteringsanläggningar måste bli godkända som slakterier. Det är helt rätt. Men våra slakterier idag, de flesta är inte anpassade för att ta emot avlivade djur. Så att de behöver också anpassa sig även om de har sitt godkännande.
So there is also work to be done in adapting the current slaughterhouses to taking in animals in this way, because that is not, they are not equipped for that generally.
They need a door.
I think we have unfortunately come to 1300 hours when we are supposed to close this, and it's obviously a subject that we need to work further with. I think we have got a picture of how essential this subject is, that we really get things right. Maria, do you think there is time for any last comment, or you just close the seminar now? I can see there are some questions still in the chat unanswered, but.
Yes, for me, it's fine to keep going a little while, but you are also have to say if you're able to stay a few more moments. If there are some questions you would still like to address, we can do that.
It's okay. It's fine for me.
Yeah, there's especially one question here I've seen for a while about the animal protection regulation specified by L22, how this is involved in this process, if there are questions around there.
This is the one that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And how it's, we will see.
So I think if there's anyone left in the room who really wants to ask the questions, please raise your hand and ask the question directly to our speakers. And if not, then I would wish to really thank you a lot for taking your time and sharing some information about this to us who not necessarily don't know so much. And we will make this recording available afterwards, and also your presentations to the participants in the seminar. So I want to thank you and wish you a good rest of the day and a good weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.